US President Donald Trump has said that he is pausing attacks on Iran's energy plants for 10 days. And this at the Iranian government's request, and said that talks with Tehran are going very well. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said that he is pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6th. He further added that despite erroneous statements by the contrary, the talks with Iran are ongoing. Earlier, Trump held his first cabinet meeting since Iran war, where he spoke at length at various aspects. He said that Iran is begging to make a deal with the United States. And this even as he reiterated obliterating Iran's Navy, Air Force, missile arsenal and defense military base. Listen to this.
Smaller version of what we're doing now. We're crushing their missiles and drone stockpiles, destroying their defense industrial base. We've wiped out their Navy completely, their Air Force completely. We've wiped out a large percentage of their missiles. And the missile launchers, without the launchers, the missiles don't do.
Donald Trump also said that Iranian leaders are finding it hard to communicate with each other as their first and second tier leadership is gone.
Nobody's a match for the United States, but they're not a match for the United States. It's small potatoes. That's why I'm so disappointed in NATO, because this was a test for NATO. This was a test. You can help us. You don't have to, but if you don't if you don't do that, we're going to remember. But they now have the chance, that is Iran, to permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions and to chart a new path forward. We'll see if they want to do it. If they don't, we're their worst nightmare. In the meantime, we'll just keep blowing them away, unimpeded, unstopped. Well, there's not a thing they can do about it. They can't do anything about it, I tell you, if they could, you'd be hearing about it. You'd be hearing about it. You don't hear anything about it.
Well, Trump said that Iran now has the chance to abandon their nuclear ambitions. He warned that US is Iran's worst nightmare and that Washington can keep the strikes going unimpeded. Now, on the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump said that US doesn't need Hormuz to fulfill its energy needs. However, he said that it will require 100% success rate to open the strait. Even one missile hitting a billion-dollar ship is unacceptable.
The problem with the straits is this. Let's say we do a great job. We say we got 99%. 1% is unacceptable because 1% is a missile going into the hull of a ship that cost $1 billion, right? So 1% is we can't. If we do a 99% decimation, that's no good.
The US president told reporters that taking control of Iran's oil was an option, but said that he would not talk about it. He further claimed that Tehran's present to him was allowing 10 big boats of oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz.
There are 8 boats that are going right up the middle of the Hormuz Strait. 8 big tankers are going loaded up with oil right through. And I said, well, I guess they were right. And it ended up being 10 boats. All right. I hope I haven't screwed up your negotiations, but I thought it was appropriate to say, because I did taunt you the other day by saying they're going to give us a present.
And for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Wael Awad, live from New Delhi. Right, Dr. Awad and Ahmad, we just want to understand from you, how are you viewing this extension by Donald Trump for the negotiations with Iran? And Iran has flatly rejected these negotiations. So what's your reading of it? Is Trump perhaps trying to buy time for Iran to come around to its 15-point peace plan which he has presented, or is he buying time for himself to perhaps come up with a strategy here?
I think the second part of your question is the correct answer, because the United States is deceiving the public opinion globally, actually, by saying that they are going for the negotiation, and that's why you see different statements from President Trump from now on, every time saying 5 days, then 10 days, then maybe 1 month. All because he wanted to make sure that most of the American Marines and all the mercenaries that they have collected from Latin America and elsewhere, they wanted to join the war on the ground assault on Iran, because the strategy has been put that they wanted to go for some kind of, creating an enclave within Iran from different corners of the Iranian borders, either Azerbaijan, Kurdistan, Afghanistan, or Pakistan, or even Saudi Arabia. So therefore, we may be thinking that the situation is more volatile rather than the American trying to find a solution, because the 15 point that the American have sent, the Iranian have answered that 15 point. But as you know also, that elephant in the room is Israel is not interested in any of these points, and they have already raised objection to Trump, the plan of ending this war. And that means exactly that the IDF, or as per Prime Minister Netanyahu said, the IDF will decide the future truce or the plan of a ceasefire.
Absolutely. And President Trump said that Iran is allowing 10 boats of oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz as a goodwill gesture. And he has framed this development as an evidence that Washington is perhaps dealing with the right people, quote unquote, the right people in Iran. Now, Dr. Awad, it's hard to imagine who these right people could be, given US's and Israel's strategic interests in this particular war are so fundamentally contrary to Iran that the regime sees little reason to believe that either Trump or Israel would either reciprocate the goodwill that they're showing or even honor the terms of any prospective agreement here.
Diksha, I strongly believe in this, that because the Iranian will never go for any sort of negotiation directly or indirectly with the United States unless and until there are some people who can, a superpower can guarantee that the United States will not again revoke this deal and go again for an attack. Iran have been bitten twice by the American, and this is the third time. And as we've been witnessing the news from the Iranian side that they have been requesting for the Vice President of the United States to be part of the negotiation, then we will understand that Witkoff and Kushner, the two envoys of the President Trump, that they have been misleading him. And that's what led to the attack. Because as you remember in the Geneva talk, there was a breakthrough, according to the National Security Advisor of UK and also the Foreign Minister of Oman. But yet they went for a war because they believe that these envoys have given the wrong impression to President Trump, and that's why he fired the first shot on Iran. I think that the situation for the United States is the better that they find a solution, because widening of this war is increasing the pressure domestically on the American president and also on the international community, because this is a global crisis, especially if tomorrow also the Houthis can take part in this conflict, and the quagmire will increase the war and so on, and we will be all in a mess.
Of course, Dr. Awad, there's this understanding that it's a whole bunch of miscalculations that have now compounded to get us to this point. And even many analysts believe that, given that Iran is not once but twice bitten, thrice shy here, and they believe that Iran is now perhaps in a stronger position strategically than it was a month ago, and especially with the de facto control over the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, Iran believes that it has both time and geography on its side. Now, would you agree with that assessment? That's one. And if yes, then what would it take for Iran to actually step back at this point?
Look, I mean, the Iranian, yes, it is a correct assessment. Iran have been always looking after the sections of this Strait of Hormuz for years, and there was no disturbance or disruption of the flow of the global trade from there. However, when the Iranians are subjected to all this kind of atrocity and attack, and they have already said that it is partially closed for those countries, including the United States, and adversaries who are also attacking Iran. Therefore, I think there is a huge misconception of Iranian position. This is a maritime area, and Iran have a control on it. There's an international maritime law also which looks into all these issues. But the Americans have pushed Iran into the defensive, and Iran will not surrender by any means to the American or to any forces in the region. And I think the importance of Iran and this geopolitically Strait of Hormuz passage is of a great importance for Iran to keep controlling it. And that's why the American feeling the bleed and changed the perception or the goal from the Iranian nuclear issues to wider issues, that they wanted to control all the passage and the global trade that passes from this area.
Right. And Dr. Awad, if one had to characterize this war, it perhaps wouldn't be too far short to say that it's been shrouded in dense fog, from the objectives of this war to the strategy, timeline, even the end goal, and now more importantly, how will this war even end? Expert and analysts have been trying to read between the lines, and they've been picking up on cues such as Trump and Xi's meeting schedule to the domestic calculus which is involved. But based on the trajectory of the conflict that we're on, how do you see it panning out from here on?
Well, you see, the objective of the United States is, as I said, to have total control on all the countries who are having oil and natural resources, name it, Venezuela, Algeria, Nigeria, Greenland, in Iran, any country that will challenge also the American dollars. They want to destabilize. And this is also part of the American strategy, not only to destabilize BRICS country, but also to make sure that China bleed. Because look at the countries that have been attacking so far. Venezuela, it is mainly was China was buying the oil, and India, and now it is Iran, which is also the major supply of this oil to China, including the Arab countries, which also give to China. So I think the Americans are dragging or bringing this fight directly a confrontation in the future between the United States and China. That's that one issue. The second part of the issues where the United States have been pushing all the regional power to rebalancing the regional power in this part of the world, because most of the Arab countries and the Islamic country in this part of the world are a target for reshaping the new Middle East order. And that's where the Israelis feeling the threat that the regional power are forcing Israel into, the defensive, because Israel wanted to expand. So unless and until they remove all these adversary, name it, it is Iran, then it is Turkey, then it is Egypt, then it is Saudi Arabia, and maybe Pakistan in the future. All this is part of the expansion plan. Unless and until we wash the brain of those colonial power that these people of this region has to live together peacefully, happily, in good harmony, then we will have only perpetual provocation for permanent war.
Those are all fair points, Dr. Rawat, but of course this is a developing situation. We'll have to see where it goes from here and how both sides calibrate their next move. But for now, thank you so much for joining us in the broadcast and sharing your astute insights with us.
Thank you for having me.